People are chronically afraid of playing wrong notes, but wrong notes really lend a lot to the sound of music, and a lot of the music that you like is based on wrong notes, whether you know it or not. And the easiest way to start thinking about using chromatic notes, chromatic is when you play all the notes on a string or in order on Western music, because our 12 frets are all laid out in order so that we get all the notes in one line. To begin using those chromatic notes within a key, in this case maybe we'll look at G, you can always have kind of some go-to points within the scale to add chromaticism and to know that you can move through those points. And as long as you don't stop there or panic when you go there, you're going to be okay. So the G major scale, from the 3rd fret on the E string, G, A, you can play the open A or the 5th fret on the E string, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G. And within that, anywhere there's a whole step is 1, 2, the 3rd fret from there, usually it's thought of as 2 frets higher from where you're at, that's a whole step. That whole distance, the 2 half-step distance, a half step is 1 fret, whole step is 2 frets. When you have that distance, you can add a chromatic note on the way there. That's the one chromatic move, the chromatic whole step you're probably not going to pass over. You're going to skip that one and just play it normally. So G to A is going to tend to stay straight like that. But when you go from A to B, in this case I'm moving the B from the A string to the E string here on the 7th fret, G, A, B. When you go A to B, you have another whole step, right? There's that space in between the 2 frets there, and what you can do is you can fill that in as you move through it. So you go 5, 6, 7, and just that, it starts to sound kind of hip because you're playing right, wrong, right. And I say, right and wrong in quotations because it all sounds pretty good if you kind of massage it right. So you can play G, A sharp, B. And so practice playing that. It's going to depend on what scale you're in and where you're at on the fretboard. Ideally, you would be able to play these things kind of like that across the strings as well. But just to keep it simple, it's easier to see the whole steps on a single string at a time. Okay, so that gets us to B. C is a half step. We don't even get an extra note in between there. But C to D, once again, you have a whole step that you can turn into a chromatic move. So in this case, our C is on the 3rd fret. We're going 3rd fret, 4th fret, 5th fret to the D. C, C sharp, D. And then once again from D, you have another whole step. And you're going to go D, D sharp, E. And what I would probably recommend doing is play the scale to the point where you're going to make a chromatic and practice each of these chromatic moves one at a time by themselves. Don't play, if you play them all at once, it's just going to sound like you're playing a chromatic scale minus the sharp one, right? You would play, if you were to play it all in order, that's what you would end up with. So what you want to do instead is play the major scale. But when you get to the point where you want to practice the chromatic, then you just practice that one move, you're kind of crossing over that the whole step there. So in this case, A to B, you would play, and then you return to normal. If you were to play C to D, and return to normal. Okay, and then we had, and then of course the last one is going to be E to F sharp. That's good. That one's going to be a little bit strange in execution, but it all depends on what chord you're playing over. can go all over the fretboard, but those are your zones. If you know kind of like what number tone, this is your 1 note, 2 note, 3 note, 4, 5, 6, 7. If you know which of those tones you can go chromatic between, okay, so that's 2 to 3. So I can, anytime there's a 2 to 3 movement, I can do something chromatic in there. Anytime there's a 4 to 5, I can go chromatic in there. And basically you can chromatic any whole step inside of the scale, except use caution with the very first whole step in the major scale. It's great for like having a Middle Eastern sound, but it's, you know, where you're going to use that is a little bit more limited. But trust your ear, experiment, and see how you can take the major scale from being kind of straight and clean and put those chromatic notes in there and get used to what they sound like and get used to leaning into them, because there's a lot of good sound in there that the chromatic notes can provide.